Now let's dig into a match analysis in depth. For one match, you could also do this with the multi-match analysis view, but let's stick with one match for now and go in detail. So this right here is the match between Carlos and Djokovic for the Aussie Open final that just happened. I will click Review Analytics, and I get taken to the Overview tab right away. So as a quick breakdown of how the match analysis page is structured, up at the top, you have a handful of different tabs that allow you to break down the match in different ways. So the Points tab has a bunch of different filters, and it allows you to click through and basically, quote-unquote, watch every point from the entire match. You can filter for service games. In this case, the match is from Carlos's perspective, so you will see every one of Carlos's service points. You can go to return games, see all Carlos's return games. You can check out all the rallies that were 0 to 4 shots made. You can check out all the break points, etc. So that's one view. The second is the Overview tab, which is your standard metrics, you versus opponent. These are a lot of the analytics that you might see on television. It has your serving performance, returning performance. There's an info icon next to every one of these metrics on the left so that you can dig into any of them. And then you've got UTR benchmarks, so you can compare your analytics to the average of players for any UTR benchmark range. If you go to serves, you can see your serve locations, as well as where the opponent hit their returns to. You can filter by different directions, by different rally lengths. You can go deuce points, break points, etc. The return tab is the same thing except in reverse. So now you see where the opponent hit all of their serves, first, second, all this stuff, where you returned, and you got obviously your percentage of points won, your return percentage made, which is basically the mirror of unreturned serves is how many aces and serves you hit that they couldn't return back and play, serve points won, etc. Then you've got the rally tab, which excludes serve and return landing spots, but otherwise shows the landing spot of every ground stroke and volley hit over the course of the match. So you can dig into depth. You can cut the data all sorts of different ways. You can see your win percentage in different cuts. So when shots are coming to Alcaraz, you can see, hey, when the balls were going to his backhand side, how did he perform? He won 56% of these points. All sorts of interesting cuts of data you can do that we'll dive into in a second. And then you've got the patterns page, which allows you to look at specific patterns of play when a shot was coming this direction and I sent it back this direction. How did I do win percentage wise, winning points, losing points, etc. Up at the top, you can use this timeline filter in order to change which game duration that you're looking at. So for example, Djokovic clearly had a very strong first set. So if we look at the first set, you might notice, his analytics are much different. In this case, Carlos only won 36% of points that were in rallies in that first set. And then you can look at the rest of the match where you can only look at one game. And so if you look at this, you'll notice, 58% of rallies now. Carlos is winning. Huge swing in the match between these two. All right, so we'll reset that. All right, now we'll go section by section and I'll walk through how one might think about breaking this down. This is different coach to coach, person to person. It depends on your philosophy in reviewing matches. This is just one way of how you might approach a match analysis. So let's start with the points tab. You can quickly watch the entire match. As I mentioned before, I would probably filter for break points during the match, and let's say it was service games, so I can see very quickly all the break points that I faced over the course of the match as Carlos, as well as deuce points if I want to. I'd also look at the return games, the break points that I had, and how did those go to see if there's anything I should be thinking about from a mental perspective, tactical perspective that I could have done differently, and I can see the points for all those critical situations very quickly. I might also look at some of the longer points to see how those ended, or the 0 to 4 points. I can see the total number of each of these categories here, so you can see that there weren't very many rallies extended behind 9 shots. So I go through all these, and I might go to the first set as mentioned before to see how things differed there. So there are only 44 points in the first set, and I could watch the entire first set. So pretty cool. If you're someone that's trying to catch up on a match, say you're a coach or a family member that was just sent a link to analyze it and follow along with the score, you can catch up and see every point leading up to what the live score is by using the points tab. Overview tab is basically a way to see at a high level a perspective of what happened or has happened so far in the match before you get into the weeds. So you can see how you performed in this column versus the opponent. So these would be Carlos's metrics in this case, and then these would be Djokovic's, and then this is the UTR benchmark that we've set. You can obviously change this, and the minus or plus number is just showing how you performed relative to the benchmark. So let's get this back. So these are total points won over the course of the match. I would probably look to see how I'm performing at a macro level on all point outcomes. How aggressive was I? Aggressive margin is winners and forced errors, minus unforced errors. Look to see how many winners are being hit by each side, forcing shots, forced errors, unforced errors. You see Djokovic, he ended up making way more unforced errors after the first set. So he had 40 after the first set and 43 for the entire match. Only 3 unforced errors in that first set. Look at big 6 errors, these are double fault return errors. A lot of these mistakes that lower UTR players make, this is a good way of looking at the breakdown for those. Serving performance, returning performance, these are great metrics to give you a signal on how well you did serving. Djokovic actually did quite a good job serving here, which is why I think there's a good back and forth on these metrics. And returning performance, rally length. Notable that Alcaraz dominated in 5 to 8 shot rallies. They were neck and neck in 0 to 4, and actually quite close in 9+ shots. Ground stroke placement, percentage made, you got past the service line and away from the middle. If I go to the serve tab, a few questions that I would consider trying to answer are: 1, what were your most and least effective serve locations? 2, how did you perform on pressure points, deuce, break points, love 30, etc.? 3, where is the opponent hitting their returns? Do they have any tendencies that you can get ahead of? 4, how are you performing on serve +1s? Where did you hit your serve +1s? Did you get good depth and direction? So if we start with the first one of these, what were your most and least effective serve locations? The way I would approach this is I can go up here. This is from Carlos's perspective. You can see the percentage of shots that he's hitting to each of these locations, and then I can apply filters. So these are all of his deuce serves. He won 67% of the points when he hit his deuce serve wide. I would probably get a little more specific, so you can apply second serves versus first serves. He did not hit any second serves wide on the deuce side, so let's just apply first serves for now. He won 67% of these. 39% of the serves he made out here were not returned back in the court, so either they were an ace or Djokovic made an error on them, and then I can see where Djokovic hit his returns. The red are errors that Alcaraz made, so these are forced errors. That means that Alcaraz hit that shot out. If I go back, I can click into any of these to see where he made these errors. Looks like Djokovic did quite a good job returning some of these wide serves forcefully cross court. There were no unforced errors, and then I can check out the winners. Where's he going? He went back, and he went to the open court. So 67% points won here, 39% returns, that's pretty solid. 57% body, not very strong. 80% points won T, 27% return. So this, I would say, is probably his best first serve location that he had on the deuce side. Deuce wide was effective, but deuce T had a much higher win percentage. Deuce wide had a better serve +1 win forcing though. So perhaps Alcaraz should consider serving a little bit more deuce. If we look at the breakdown, yeah, he's serving 38% of his first serves, deuce T, so maybe upping that number a little bit would be helpful and diminishing the number of body serves he hits. All right, if we look at the ad side, 87%, 53% on return serves. That's going to be hard to beat over the course of the match. Ad body, 80% points won. That's still really strong. Surprised how many serve +1s Djokovic is hitting all these cross court. T, a lot of balls middle. I mean, 87%, 29% serve +1. This is basically saying out of the shots that Djokovic made back in the court for the return, what percentage did Alcaraz then hit a winner or forcing shot on? So there weren't that many, and he made 2 that were a forcing or a winner, so that was solid. And then ad wide, 78%. So actually, it's quite interesting that Alcaraz won 83% of his first serve points on the ad side because he only won 70% of his first serve points on the deuce side. So perhaps worth looking into how to increase this, or maybe he just had a really good day serving on the outside, but quite impressive. Up here at the top left, I look at my first serves in percentage. 70% is great for Alcaraz over the course of the match. I can see on deuce points 80%, so he actually upped his percentage on those key points. And break points he was 67, so right around the same. So 31%, 52%, and yeah, he was already taking a lot of advantage of the fact that he was winning so many points going ad T. So I would say Carlos did a great job taking advantage of the bump here and continue reducing body ad serves potentially. Although it was a high percentage, much higher than on the deuce side for wins there. If we look at second serves, there were none wide. Body, he won 57%, no one return serves. T, 57%. Okay, so not too big of a difference there. Maybe slight preference for the body. Not that big a difference because there were a couple unreturns, one unreturned serve here. On the ad side, 2T. Wow, 70% of points body he won. Unreturned, all those returns are coming back cross court. The one that went to the forehand, Alcaraz hit a winner on thereafter. This one, oh sorry, so Djokovic hit a winner after Alcaraz hit the shot. So perhaps Djokovic should consider returning a couple more of these second serves into the forehand. All of them went to the backhand. And he only won 30% of his return points here. And then out wide, 25%, 75% points won. Great returns from Djokovic out there. Better depth than when Alcaraz was going body. So Alcaraz did quite a good job winning 2 out of these 3 points. Wow, battle. Okay, error. And error from Djokovic. It looks like on both of these, Djokovic may have made an unforced error. TBD. So perhaps add wide and body. Continue sticking with that because going to the Djokovic forehand on the second serve on the outside didn't pay off. So probably not much to change there tactically. If we go to the returns, and I'm looking at this, the questions I would answer would be very similar. So 1, where is the opponent generally hitting their serves? In order to look into this, I can look at the percentages. So pretty even split between all serves. If I just look at first serves, 56% out wide. So Djokovic is generally favoring going out wide, and then even split, relatively even split on the outside. So let's see how I did if I'm Carlos returning serves that went wide on the deuce side. Made 76% of them. I won 28% of the points. Djokovic was really hurting me on that second ball. Only 48% return plus 1 survival. This basically means I wasn't getting past the serve plus 1. I wasn't making 2 shots or more on 52% of these points. Deuce body, only 1 serve was hit there. Deuce T, 26% points won, returns made 79. Honestly, these are probably about the same. I'd say Djokovic is doing a little bit better with the wide serve, so he was rightfully milking that, given that he was doing such a good job on the plus 1s. Deuce T, he was still very strong, won slightly more points as a percentage, but not as many plus 1s. And you obviously give up some of the positional advantage by serving T, whereas if you serve someone out wide, this court is open here. All right, so Djokovic, where was he serving? That was the first question we wanted to ask. It seemed pretty even on the first serves. Second serves, where is he going? Actually, pretty even split. More serves to the Alcaraz forehand than I would have guessed. And the second question that I'd aim to answer on the return is, what serves were you most and least effective at returning? So on the first serve, we had looked a little bit at the percentage of points won, and when looking at the deuce wide, it's kind of all over with where the returns were going. Perhaps worth looking at some of these points to see how they ended up. I mean, these are great returns. So if I got the ball out here, cross court, what percentage was I winning versus going down the line or deep middle? Deuce body, deuce T. You can look at the depth of all these returns too. So 26% short, 32% short. Anyways, you can break this down, see where you're doing best points won wise. On the ad side, 42% of points won on first serves. T, much better than the deuce side, and 35% wide. So say if I'm Djokovic, probably want to serve more T on the deuce first, or sorry, the ad first serve than going wider body. And returns made, I think this is a little lower than Djokovic. It's about the same for percentage of returns made. Let's look at the second serve. 43% of points won altogether. 25, 14, 50. So I was best at returning the deuce C second serves. It's getting great depth here. Almost all of them past the service line. Missed a couple of the deuce body serves in the net. So perhaps look at what's going on there and what happened on some of these other points that I lost. You can also ask the AI later on to analyze that. On the deuce wide serves, I won 25%. So I would also look at this. I'm missing a couple of these second serves wide to my forehand, so I might want to go work on that because that seems 18% points won on second serves is not good. That's really surprising over the course of the entire match. So I would look into this. These are probably mostly forehands to figure out how to increase my make percentage because it's only 64%. Deuce T was strong. So yeah, increase my make percentage there. On the ad side, only 40% returns made when serving to the forehand. So the forehand return on second serves seems like it's a little loose. Yeah, ad T, and then deuce body and deuce wide. 25% of points won, 56% of returns made on second serves. So I'd lean into working on that if I was Carlos. Third question that I would seek to answer, what return locations and directions were most effective for you? We'll be adding some return direction filters here soon, so you can see your win percentage when you hit, deuce wide serves down the line versus cross court. That's coming soon. And you can do the same sort of breakdown to see returns made, sorry, not returns made, but return plus 1 and percentage of points won when you made a return in a particular direction or depth. How did you perform on the pressure points? So let's check this out. Deuce serves. Djokovic was making 81% of his first serves on deuce points. How did I do? 38% of points won. That's better than what you're averaging for the rest of the match. So that suggests that Carlos did pretty well locking in on the deuce points. 70% returns made here, especially on first serves. We look at first serves, 35%, 75, 85% returns made versus 77 for the rest of the match. That's good. Locking in, making returns. Break points, only 21% of points won. On break points, 71% returns made. So either Djokovic was coming with some extra heat on these serves, kudos to him, or Alcaraz, was making a few extra errors here. Based on these unreturned serves and some of the return plus 1 ferocity of Djokovic, I would imagine it's more that Djokovic just stepped up his game on those, but impressive on the 30 all and deuce points. Let's move to the rallies tab. A few different questions that I would seek to answer on the rallies tab are, what percentage of balls, and again, the rallies tab includes all landing spots with the exception of serve landing spots and return landing spots. Everything else is here. So this shows where every shot landed during the match with the exception of serves and returns. Questions I would seek to answer. How was I doing depth-wise? What percentage of my shots was I hitting deep and out of the middle, as those are generally two indicators of my ground stroke performance during the match. When I was receiving shots into the ad side of the court or the deuce side of the court, how did I do on hitting those ground strokes back, and win percentage when my opponent hit to these sides of the court for me? What was my win percentage if you reverse that when I hit balls into Novak's backhand side versus his forehand side, and how many finishing shots or errors did I hit from each of those zones, and how many did Novak hit from each of those zones? This would inform, directionally, where I was hitting shots consistently, where I was attacking, where I was getting attacked. I would also just specifically analyze all errors. Let's look at, all unforced errors that I hit, all forced errors that I hit. What was the average point length, net, wide, long, apply some different filters to better understand where these errors are coming from. You could do the same thing for where your winners are coming from and what that looks like, what shots precede these winners and forcing shots. And then I would probably go to the top and tweak this by moments in the match. So as we mentioned earlier, there was quite a big swing after the first set. Now here, Alcaraz was only winning 36% of these ground stroke exchanges, but if you look later on in the match after the first set, I believe that number increases quite a lot. So he went from 36% to winning 58% of ground stroke exchanges now after the first set. All right, so let's go through this exercise for the Carlos and Djokovic match. To start, as I mentioned, I might look at the percentage depth and out of the middle for each player. So in this case, I see that 41% of Carlos's balls running up in the middle third of the court, 32% into the forehand, 27% into Djokovic backhand. So it seems like a pretty even split with slight preference for going to the forehand side. If you look at Djokovic, he's got a few more balls going to the middle. These two pros generally do a great job keeping balls out of the middle. Even Djokovic's balls that are in the middle third of the court seem like they're coming cross court just barely in the middle. But 21% to the Alcaraz forehand, 24%. At a high level, it just looks like there is a decent amount of errors here on the forehand side, so that might be worth looking into later. Depth-wise, only 16% of balls short for Djokovic. He was really getting punished when the balls were short, though. 22% of balls were short that Alcaraz hit. And then Djokovic, 33% of his shots were very deep. That's halfway between the service line and the baseline to the baseline is very deep. So that's quite impressive. I'm sure these metrics would change if you just looked at the first set. So if we focus just on the first set, seeing a lot of targeting of the Djokovic forehands, less balls in the middle for Alcaraz, and a lot of balls more middle and not quite as deep for Djokovic in the first set. Okay. Now I might think about what this looks like when I am receiving balls into my backhand corner. So Alcaraz, when balls are hit into the ad side of the court. So we're looking at all these shots coming into the ad side. So I want to see what percentage of points Alcaraz is winning when Novak is hitting balls into his backhand side, as well as how he's doing on finishing shots. So you can see his aggressive margin was plus 20, a lot of winners. He's plus 8 finishing shots overall for things that are outside of his opponent's control. So opponent unforced errors are not included in this. Neither are opponent winners, and yet he's still plus 8, very strong, 56% of points won. If we look at the other side of the court, a little lower, he's 52% of points won across all shots that were hit into the deuce side for him, and he's minus 4. So he's doing a lot more damage on finishing shots from the ad side than he is from the deuce side. You can obviously do the same thing for the opponent. So instead, I would say, hey, what does it look like when balls are going into Djokovic's? Say what do shots look like when they are going to Djokovic's forehand. So these are all balls coming in there, and let's show the incoming vector. 53% of points won when going to the Djokovic forehands, and 52% of points won going into the Djokovic backhand. 45 middle, 46 middle, as you would expect. It's a lot higher when you get Djokovic stretch. That's quite a big difference than when you're hitting in the middle of the court to him versus 47% versus 63%. That's an interesting insight right there on its own. All right, and if we look at this, what else? Average points, point length, 4.3, 4.5, 4.8, 5.6 when going out wide. That is another thing worth perhaps pulling out, is just generally, what is the average point length of these rallies? 4.3. Okay, the next thing I might do is specifically break down the errors. So what was happening, this is more from a development perspective, where should we consider practicing to improve weaknesses? And then for forcing shots, how can we get more of these and figure out where I'm strongest during the match? So forced errors, unforced errors, I would probably start with selecting unforced errors. Probably look at, of the 17 unforced errors I made, how many were in the net, wide, long, where are these in the court? Where's the incoming ball, the outgoing ball? I'd say, okay, 8 in the net, 4 wide, macing, hardly any wide, change direction. I'd ask, am I making good decisions when I am changing direction then? Where am I making these change direction mistakes from? Okay, 9 of them from this side of the court, ball's coming down the line, and then I'm going cross, I'm missing a few wide, a few long, a couple in the net. Okay, so maybe if I was missing a lot in the net, perhaps getting a little more shape on these shots here. And I can again click on any of them to see what happened during the point. Forced errors, I would do the same thing. What amount are in the net, wide, long, changing, and where are they? So how many of these forced errors are from each lane of the court? And it's quite interesting here, 15 of the 31 forced errors were in this far right lane of the court, suggesting Djokovic is really attacking the Alcaraz forehand to get errors out there. And maybe Carlos needs to work on his running forehands to save a few extra points per match. When we run that same analysis for unforced errors, 2, 5, 7, 3. So this lane of the court is where Carlos is making the most unforced errors. And of those, 4 were in the net, 2 were wide, 3 were long. So perhaps getting a little bit more shape. I imagine a lot of these are forehands. Yep, 4 of them were forehands, and 2 of them were backhands, and then they were probably a volley approach. So forehands getting a little bit more over the net, but that's right in his wheelhouse for unforced errors. We do the same thing for Djokovic. Winners and forcing shots. How are you doing in each zone of the court? So very strong from the middle of the court, as would be expected. And where are you going with these? 59% are going into the Djokovic forehands. It seems like a similar pattern of ripping into the Djokovic forehand side. Altogether, 58% are going into the Djokovic forehand. The winners, 44% short balls, a lot of angles and drop shots. So that's interesting to check out. Then there's the patterns tab, which I won't go into much, but it's just showing, how you performed when a shot was coming a certain direction and you sent it back, which you can do the same sort of analysis of on the rallies tab page.